What's up guys, it's Anna here with Super Awesome Cool Pottery. Today we are going to be making planter pets, and with Christmas coming right around the corner, I decided to make them Christmas themed, which is why I have a little snowman and yeti figure. Alright, let's hop into the tutorial. We are going to start by making the snowman. To make the snowman, we're going to need Sculpey in the colors burnt umber, white, orange, black, and because we have it on hand, a sparkly red. The red is for the scarf of the snowman, so you can definitely use any other color that you would like, but we just have red, so that's why I chose it. To begin, I'm going to heat up my Sculpey by kneading it in my hands for a little while, just to get it nice and warm and make it easier to use, because usually right out of the package it's super hard and is not like flexible at all. Now that our Sculpey is all heated up, we are going to divide it into 3 pieces for the body and head of our snowman. When comparing the sizes, if I didn't like how big something was, I usually just took off a little bit and then reevaluated from there. Now that we've got all 3 balls ready, we are going to just stack them on top of each other and lightly press them together. You don't want to press too hard and change the shape of the balls. You just want to press hard enough to get them attached. And I wiggle them just to try and get them to attach better. And there's the beginning of our snowman. That little wiggle I did on the table was to make the bottom of my snowman flat. That way he actually stands and doesn't just roll about. Now it's time for the black Sculpey. So I'm going to do the same thing with the black Sculpey as I did with the white. I'm going to take out a little chunk and heat it up in my hands by kneading it just to make it flexible and get it prepped for use. To begin with the black Sculpey, I'm going to be using it to make our face and buttons on the snowman. So I'm going to begin by pinching off little bits of clay and then balling them up, and after I've balled them up, I like to estimate if I got the right size by comparing it to the snowman itself. So as you see, I just place them on there. I don't push them in or anything. I just lightly place it and see if I like that size. And I didn't, so I took one of the eyes, I pinched it in half, and then I will go back and compare again. Now that this is the size I like, I'm going to go ahead and push those little dots on just to secure them onto our snowman. And then I'm going to move on to making all of the little coal pieces for his mouth. I'm going to compare that size to the eyes because I want those pieces to be a little bit smaller so that I can put more of them on to make the mouth. While prepping all my dots, I'm going to keep in mind that I only need 4 of them to make his mouth and 2 to make the buttons on his body. And then once everything is arranged, I will go in and push all of them down to secure them to my snowman. Now that I've gotten everything made, I'm going to go ahead and place everything onto my snowman and just arrange them how I would like. Now that we've finished with the face, let's move on to the hat. So I'm just going to start by heating up my sculpey again because it's probably gotten a little cold and isn't as flexible anymore. Once my sculpey is flexible, I'm going to roll it into a ball. And then I'm going to take a little rolling pin that I have and some tin foil and flatten out that ball. This is going to be the rim of my hat from the snowman. And while I'm flattening everything, I continuously spin the sculpey around so that I am flattening everything out evenly and spreading all of the sculpey around it and not just in two directions. Now with my needle tool, I am going to measure out how big I want the rim of the hat to be. So I'm going to take my tool, just kind of figure out how big I think it should be compared to my snowman. And then once I get that measurement, I'm going to make some markers on my sculpey and use that as my outline for the rim of my hat. Once I have that outline made, I'm just going to go around the sculpey and make a circle. And I slowly make this circle. I don't just go straight in and cut it out. I just continuously cut it and cut it and cut it multiple times until it goes all the way through. That way I don't just rip the clay and yank it in different ways and make it ugly. This way it keeps its form better and I don't have to worry about having the rim of his hat look weird. After I checked how big his hat is compared to him, I didn't really like that size and I wanted to go a little bit smaller, so now I'm just going to cut off a little bit more clay, trying to make sure that I keep this round shape and I don't skew it too much. Once I've gotten the shape the way I like it, I go around it and I'm just lightly pressing the edges just to try and clean them up some and get any like stray little bits of sculpey that isn't smooth on the rim, just to smooth it all out and make it even. Now I'm going to take some additional sculpey and make the rest of his hat. So for this, this time whenever I roll my sculpey out, I'm just gonna go in one direction because I just need a line of clay pretty much to make the rest of his hat. Now I'm just folding it over on itself to measure the size and figure out where I need to cut it. So I'm going to cut off those ends that are rounded from it, just so that I can make a more seamless attachment to the other side, and I'm going to cut off the top edges of this so that it's more straight. I use my needle tool to hold that part of my hat, so it's easier to smooth it all out and make the attachments look nice. Now, once I've gotten that part of the hat figured out, I'm just going to push it onto the brim of my hat to attach it. And then I'm going to roll out a little bit more clay and get the size that I'm missing for the top of the hat and cut that out and attach it. Now I've got my little hat, and I'm just going to push it onto my snowman. Just slightly push it on, maybe wiggle it a little bit, try and get that nice and attached. Now moving on to the orange sculpey, we are going to be making our snowman's signature carrot nose. Like we've done before, I'm just going to go ahead and heat up my sculpey in between my fingers, just lightly kneading it for a little bit. Then once I've gotten it all heated up, I'm going to pinch off however much I think I need to make his nose, and then I'm going to put it in my fingers like so and roll it. That way I have a nice point at one end and a flat side on the other, just so I can have a nice carrot shape. And then I will estimate if that is the right size for my snowman by comparing it to his face and seeing if I like how that looks. If I don't, you can always pinch off some and then re-roll it out and attach it. Or if you feel like it's too small, you can always add a little bit more clay and then reshape it and reattach it. So I didn't like the shape and I wanted it a little bit smaller, so I just pinched some of the clay off, put it to the side, and rolled it out a little bit more because I felt like originally his nose was a little bit too thick for his face, so I just made it a little bit skinnier. Moving on to our brown sculpey, we are going to be making his tree branch arms out of the burnt umber clay. After I have warmed up my clay, I'm just going to roll it into a coil. And once I've rolled it into a coil that is decently thick, I'm going to cut it and then compare the size that I would like with my snowman to figure out how long I need his arms to be. And then once I've figured out how big one of them needs to be, I will take the other one and cut it down to that same size. After I've done that, I'm going to pinch out little branches on his arms just to further the look of it being an actual tree branch. Just have little like twigs coming off of it, kinda. And then I'm taking my needle tool, the end of it, and poking a little hole just to give my arms some room to be in. And then I will repeat that same step with the other arm. Moving on to the red sculpey, we are going to be making his scarf. While we're making his scarf, we're just going to knead the clay to heat it up some. And once it is all heated up, we are going to roll it out into a nice coil, like we did with the tree branch arms. But after we've rolled this coil, I check the size to see if that's the length I want his scarf to be. And once I've done that, I'm going to roll it out flat. Once I have my nice flat piece of sculpey, I will wrap it around my snowman, and there he is with his little scarf. And there you have it, our first planter pet, the snowman. Next we will be making the Yeti from the 1964 Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer stop motion movie. To make our Yeti, we will need white sculpey, black sculpey, and tranquility sculpey. For part of the Yeti, I made a color. I lightened the tranquility color with white. I just kneaded those two colors together and I made that new color. Now to begin, we're going to get some clay and warm it up in our hands like we did before, just by kneading it for a little bit until it is workable. Once that sculpey is workable, I'm just going to roll it into a ball in my hands. I want this to be a pretty thick piece of sculpey because it is going to be his main body. And once I've rolled it all out, I'm going to flatten two ends of it so that his legs and head can sit better, and I'm flattening out the back and front of it for his back and his stomach. Honestly, it kind of looks like I made like a mini AirPods case for his body. Next, I'm going to take some more sculpey, some more white sculpey for his head. I just roll this into a ball, and I kind of shape the top of it kind of like a cone, because his head looks kind of cone-shaped. Then I took that sculpey that I made the color for, and I'm just taking a small piece and I'm going to flatten it out to make it look like the little section that was on his face. I'm going to go and cut off the edges to smooth some of it out and get a better shape, and take off any excess sculpey that I didn't need. And I'm just smoothing out pieces, flattening out the edges, and fixing the shape as needed. Then I put it onto his little head and try and figure out if that's the right size. As you can see, I didn't feel like it was right, so I pinched off some of it. And then once I feel like it looks correct, I push it into his head. Now, taking some more white sculpey, I'm going to be making a coil. And from this coil, I'm going to cut it in half slowly with my needle tool, as to not totally deform the shape of it. But once I have my two little coils, those are going to be his arms. I'm just going to attach those to his body like so. I kind of open up the top of it so that it has some room to hook on, and I can kind of smooth that little bit of sculpey out. Helps keep his arms attached to his body. Now, taking that blue color I made again, I'm going to roll out two small balls, and those are going to be his hands. So that the initial two balls that I made were a little bit too big, so I just cut it in half and I rolled them back out, and now they are the perfect size. Now, taking some more white, I'm going to make another coil, and this time it's going to be for his legs. I kind of made a little marshmallow shape, and then I rolled that out so that I had a consistent size. And I'm going to go back in and cut that in half. Sorry, my head is in the way. And I'm flattening out some of those edges so that he has something to help keep his legs attached whenever I go to smooth everything out. Flattening out the bottoms by tapping them on my table. Opening up where I'm going to attach it some more. And then I'm going to add it to his body now. I'm going to place both of those on there, and once they're in a way that I like, I'm going to push them on and smooth out those little flaps. Now I'm going to attach his hands to his arms, which is pretty simple. Just push them on and make sure that you don't deform the ball shape that you've already made. Now, going back to that blue color, you're going to make his feet. And for this, I just made a ball and I flattened it out with my thumb so it had a small ridge on it, and I did that twice for both of his feet. And once I've got both of those, I'm just going to attach his feet to him just by simply standing him up on it and then pushing him down into his feet. now I'm going to take some more white sculpey and we're going to work on our Yeti's face. So with that white, I'm going to pinch off little small bits, and this is going to be the whites of his eyes. And from that small little bit that I cut off, I'm going to cut that in half in kind of a triangular shape, smooth everything out, and then check my proportions against my Yeti and see if I like that size. So that first one I made was a little bit too big, so I just went in and I cut it in half again and remade the shape so it's kind of triangular. And that time I liked the size, so I push it onto his head. Now I'm going to repeat that step with the other eye and add it on. Now for his pupils, I'm just taking the smallest little bit of black, I'm going to roll it up into a ball, and I'm also pinching off some little tiny pieces for his nostrils too. And with that leftover black clay that I had, I'm rolling out a very thin coil, and that is going to be his mouth. So now that I have all of those parts, I'm going to attach his eyes. I make his eyes look a little weird because most of the time in the stop motion movie, his eyes were always kind of wonky, so I just wanted to keep that. So now I'm going to attach his nose, which is just two little small dots of black. And now with his mouth, you just simply put it underneath one eye and then end at the other side. Now that I have his face done, I'm going to attach his head. And there you have it, your planter pets. Thank you for watching. This has been Anna from Super Awesome Cool Pottery. Hope you join us next time, and make sure to like and subscribe. Thank you. Bye!